If you have been carrying the weight of misunderstanding, false accusations, silent judgment, and the heavy feeling that your name has been whispered in rooms you were never invited into, then listen carefully, because this message is not random and it is not late. It is perfectly timed for this exact moment in your life, and what you are experiencing right now is not the end of your story but the turning of a divine page. Because God is about to clear your name in a way that no human strategy, no emotional defense, and no personal explanation could ever accomplish. And you need to understand that when God steps in, He does not argue, He reveals. He does not defend, He exposes truth. He does not rush, He orchestrates. And the very same voices that tried to question your integrity will soon be forced to witness your vindication. Because what is happening behind the scenes is greater than what is being said in front of you, and while you have been praying in silence, losing sleep, replaying conversations, and wondering how things got so twisted, heaven has been documenting every detail, every lie, every manipulation, every false narrative, and every tear you cried when no one was watching. And just like in the life of Book of Psalms, where it declares that God prepares a table before you in the presence of your enemies, your restoration will not be private, it will be undeniable. Because this season was never designed to destroy you, it was designed to reveal who was really for you and who was secretly working against you. And I know it felt unfair when you chose integrity and still got blamed, when you stayed silent and still got misunderstood, when you kept your heart pure and still got attacked. But sometimes God allows your name to be temporarily questioned so that your character can be permanently established. And the reason the pressure increased is because your elevation is close. The reason the rumors spread is because your influence is rising, and the reason certain people panicked is because they sensed that God's hand was on you even before you fully realized it yourself. And what they tried to bury is about to bloom, what they tried to stain is about to shine, and what they tried to silence is about to speak louder than ever. Because when God clears your name, He does it in a way that leaves no confusion, no debate, and no doubt. And the same people who thought you were finished will be shocked at how favored you actually are, because divine vindication is not about revenge, it is about revelation. It is God showing everyone that your loyalty, your obedience, and your restraint were not weakness but strength. And while others were busy crafting stories, God was crafting strategy. And while they were networking against you, heaven was aligning the right witnesses, the right opportunities, the right conversations, and the right timing to flip the entire narrative in your favor. And you must resist the temptation to defend yourself prematurely, because sometimes your silence is part of God's setup, just like Joseph in the book of Genesis, who was falsely accused and thrown into prison, yet that prison became the pathway to the palace, and what looked like disgrace became divine placement, and what looked like rejection became redirection. And your current situation is not punishment, it is positioning. And the reason you felt isolated is because God was separating you from environments that could not handle your next level. And the truth about this season is that it exposed more than it embarrassed, it revealed more than it damaged, it clarified more than it confused, and you are about to see conversations shift, attitudes soften, doors reopen, and unexpected apologies surface. Because when God moves, He does not need your critics' permission, and He does not consult your doubters for approval. He simply acts, and everything changes. And I need you to prepare your heart not just for your name to be cleared but for your influence to expand, because once your integrity is publicly affirmed, your authority will increase, and that is why the attack was intense, because the assignment on your life is significant, and the enemy never attacks anything that has no future, and the reason you survived what was meant to shame you is because grace was covering you even when you felt exposed, and what is about to happen will restore your confidence, your peace, and your reputation all at once, and it will happen in a way that makes it clear that it was not luck, not coincidence, not manipulation, but divine intervention, and you will not have to beg for clarity because clarity will find you. You will not have to chase validation because validation will chase you, and you will not have to argue your case because your results will speak for you. And remember how in the story of Daniel in the book of Daniel, when he was targeted by jealousy and thrown into the lion's den, yet God shut the mouths of the lions and turned a setup into a testimony. That same pattern is unfolding for you right now, because what was designed to intimidate you will ultimately elevate you, and what was intended to trap you will ultimately promote you, and the ones who tried to trap you may soon find themselves confronting the truth they tried to distort, and this is why you cannot quit in this chapter, because the next chapter contains your vindication. And once God clears your name, you will realize that every sleepless night strengthened your faith, every misunderstanding deepened your resilience, and every silent prayer built spiritual momentum that is now ready to manifest in visible ways, and your story will not end in embarrassment, it will end in endorsement, and you will look back at this season not with bitterness but with gratitude, because it proved that when your heart is aligned with God, no lie can permanently define you, no rumor can permanently damage you, and no accusation can permanently defeat you. And what felt like delay was actually divine choreography, and what felt like loss was actually protection, and what felt like humiliation was actually preparation. And I need you to stand firm because the shift is closer than you think, and the evidence of your innocence, your loyalty, and your truth is about to surface in ways you could never have orchestrated, and when it does, do not let pride replace humility. Do not let anger replace grace, and do not let revenge replace wisdom, because God is not just clearing your name, He is refining your spirit, and the same God who sees in secret will reward you openly, and when that moment arrives, when the truth is revealed, when the narrative flips, and when your name is spoken with respect instead of suspicion, you will understand that God was never absent, He was active, He was never silent, He was strategic, and He was never late. He was aligning everything perfectly, and the clearing of your name will not just restore what was questioned. It will multiply what was delayed, it will strengthen what was shaken, and it will confirm what heaven has already declared over your life, that you are chosen, protected, favored, and destined for impact beyond what your critics could ever imagine. So hold your peace, guard your heart, keep your integrity intact, and get ready, because God is about to clear your name, and when He does, it will be undeniable, irreversible, and unforgettable. As this story continues, you must understand that the clearing of your name is not just a single moment of public correction but a divine process that restructures everything around you, because when God restores reputation, He also repositions relationships, opportunities, influence, and authority. And what you are stepping into now is not merely relief from accusation but entrance into a higher dimension of purpose where your testimony becomes a weapon and your endurance becomes evidence that you were built for more than the misunderstanding that tried to define you. And if you look carefully at patterns throughout Scripture, you will see that vindication always follows endurance and elevation always follows endurance under pressure. just as it unfolded in the life of Job in the book of Job, where accusations, loss, and public speculation surrounded him, yet in the end God not only restored him but doubled what he had before. And this is important because restoration in God's kingdom is rarely equal to what was lost, it is multiplied. Beyond it, meaning the very area that embarrassed you will soon empower you, the very space that excluded you will soon need you, and the very voices that questioned you will soon quote you, because when God clears your name He does not just erase the lie, He elevates the truth so high that the lie becomes irrelevant, and what you once tried to explain will soon become self-evident without a single word from you. And this is why restraint was necessary, because had you reacted emotionally you might have delayed the strategic reveal that heaven was preparing, but because you chose restraint over retaliation, prayer over pettiness, and character over chaos, you positioned yourself for a vindication that cannot be disputed, and now the atmosphere around you is shifting even if you cannot fully see it yet, because hearts are being convicted, conversations are being corrected, and hidden information is surfacing in quiet ways that will soon become very public, and the same individuals who were confident in their narrative are beginning to feel the pressure of exposure, because truth has a weight that lies cannot carry for long, and what once seemed stable in deception is starting to crack under divine light. And you must not grow impatient in this final stretch, because impatience can cause you to speak when God is about to act, and you do not want to interrupt the reveal by stepping in too soon. Because when God defends you He does it with precision and permanence. And think about David before he ever wore a crown, hunted, misrepresented, and forced into hiding. Yet when the time was right God shifted the throne without David forcing a single door, and the same God who orchestrated that transition is orchestrating yours, and the removal of what oppressed you will not require your manipulation, because divine justice does not need human assistance. And what you must prepare for now is not battle but blessing, because once your name is cleared there will be invitations you did not expect, collaborations you did not pursue, and recognition you did not chase, and you must carry humility into that new space, because vindication is not a platform for pride but proof of God's faithfulness. And this next chapter will require wisdom, because some of the same people who misunderstood you may attempt to reconnect once the truth is visible. And you will need discernment to know who is genuinely repentant and who is simply adjusting to the new narrative, and clarity is part of the blessing too, because not everyone who returns is meant to remain, and the exposure that cleared your name also revealed character around you, and that revelation is protection for your future. And what is happening now is not random but divinely synchronized, because timing is everything in vindication, and if God had cleared your name too early certain alliances would not have been exposed and certain lessons would not have been learned. But now you are stronger, wiser, and more spiritually anchored than you were before, and when the restoration unfolds it will land on a version of you that can handle it without self-destruction, and that is why delay was mercy in disguise, and the peace you are beginning to feel is confirmation that the storm is losing strength, and the anxiety that once consumed you is being replaced with quiet confidence, because deep inside you sense that something is shifting. And that inner knowing is not imagination but spiritual awareness that breakthrough is near, and once the correction becomes public you will realize that your greatest defense was God's silence, because while you thought He was inactive He was aligning evidence, influencing decisions, and softening hearts in ways you could not perceive, and the clearing of your name will not only silence critics but strengthen your voice, because credibility will now accompany your calling. And what once felt like a setback will be referenced as the setup that introduced you to a broader stage. And you will speak with authority, not because you were never attacked but because you survived the attack without losing your integrity, and that authenticity will draw people who need to know that false narratives do not have final authority over a life aligned with God. And as this unfolds, you must guard against bitterness, because bitterness can contaminate blessing, and the goal was never to destroy your enemies but to develop your endurance. And once the truth stands on its own, you will no longer feel the need to replay the pain, because purpose will overshadow it, and you will step into rooms where your name carries respect, not suspicion, honor, not hesitation, and trust, not tension. And when that moment arrives, take a deep breath and remember that the same God who carried you through misunderstanding will carry you through multiplication. And this is not just about reputation but about destiny, because clearing your name was necessary for the next assignment. And now that assignment is closer than ever, so remain steady, remain prayerful, remain disciplined, because what is about to manifest will confirm that no accusation can override divine approval and no temporary stain can cancel eternal calling. And as you move forward, you will look back at this season and recognize that it was the refining fire that purified your faith, strengthened your patience, and prepared you for a platform that requires unshakable character. And the clearing of your name will not simply restore what was questioned but will amplify who you truly are. And when it happens, you will not need to shout, because the evidence will speak. You will not need to argue, because results will testify. And you will not need to seek validation, because God's vindication will stand undeniable, irreversible, and complete. And now, as you step into this final stretch of the journey, you must recognize that what is about to happen is not simply a correction of the past but a confirmation of your future, because when God clears your name, He is not just addressing what was said about you, He is establishing what will be said about you from this day forward. And there is a difference between temporary relief and permanent repositioning. And what you are entering into is permanent repositioning, where your credibility is restored, your influence is expanded, and your peace is anchored in a way that cannot be shaken again by rumors or resistance. And you have to understand that vindication is not just about other people realizing they were wrong, it is about you realizing how protected you truly were the entire time. Because while you were worrying about conversations happening behind your back, heaven was orchestrating conversations in rooms you did not even have access to. And while you were wondering who believed the lie, God was preparing undeniable evidence that would surface at the appointed time. And this appointed time is critical, because divine timing always carries maximum impact, meaning the truth is revealed at the moment it can no longer be ignored, and what once seemed uncertain will suddenly become crystal clear, and you will witness a shift so precise that you will know without question that it was not coincidence but divine intervention. And consider how the story of Esther unfolded in the book of Esther, where a hidden plan to destroy her people was reversed in a single night, because God knows how to turn hidden schemes into public reversals. And just as the decree that threatened destruction was overturned, the narrative that threatened your name is being overturned even now, and what was whispered in secrecy will be corrected in clarity. And what was believed without evidence will collapse under truth. And you must prepare your heart for the moment when people begin to treat you differently, not because you changed but because the truth became visible. And in that moment, humility will be your greatest strength, because vindication handled with arrogance can damage what grace restored. and you have grown too much to allow pride to steal what patience produced, and this season has refined you in ways you did not initially appreciate because pressure exposed your resilience, silence strengthened your discernment, and isolation deepened your dependence on God, and now you are emerging not just with a cleared name but with a stronger spirit, a wiser perspective, and a deeper understanding of who truly belongs in your life, and some relationships will not survive this transition because they were connected to the version of you that was under suspicion, not the version that stands affirmed, and that separation is not loss but alignment, and as the truth spreads you will notice opportunities accelerating because once integrity is confirmed doors open faster, and the same people who hesitated to associate with you may now seek your presence. And this is where discernment must guide you because restoration does not mean returning to every former space, it means moving forward with clarity, and clarity is one of the greatest gifts of vindication because it frees you from the need to explain yourself ever again, and from this point forward your work, your character, and your consistency will speak louder than any defense ever could. And think about how in the life of Peter after denial and public failure he was later restored and entrusted with leadership, showing that God's restoration does not ignore the storm but uses it to build authority, and in the same way your trial has built authority within you, authority that cannot be manufactured, authority that only comes from surviving misunderstanding without surrendering your faith, and that authority will now attract people who need your example, people who are walking through similar battles and require proof that truth ultimately prevails. And your story will become a lighthouse for those navigating false accusations and silent battles, and you will speak not from theory but from experience. And there is power in experience because it carries authenticity that cannot be imitated. And as this chapter closes you will feel a peace that once seemed impossible because the weight of defending yourself will be lifted permanently, and when the final confirmation arrives, whether through public acknowledgement, unexpected apology, sudden opportunity, or visible success that silences every critic, you will realize that God was writing a testimony far greater than the trouble you endured, and the clearing of your name will not only restore your reputation but will solidify your confidence in divine justice, and from this point forward you will walk differently because you know what it feels like to be falsely judged and then divinely justified, and that knowledge creates unshakable faith, and unshakable faith produces unstoppable momentum. And as you move into this new season remember that the same God who defended you will continue to direct you, the same God who exposed the lie will establish your legacy, and the same God who allowed the test will now release the reward, and your name will carry respect where it once carried doubt, your presence will command honor where it once faced hesitation, and your peace will remain steady because it is rooted not in public opinion but in divine approval, and this is the final confirmation that the attack was temporary but the calling is permanent. The accusation was loud but the truth is louder, and the delay was painful but the destiny is powerful, so stand tall, remain grateful, walk humbly, and embrace the new chapter unfolding before you because God is about to clear your name completely, publicly, and permanently, and when it is finished you will not only be restored, you will be elevated, established, and equipped for everything that comes next, and no one will be able to question what God has confirmed. As you enter this final unfolding of the promise you must understand that when God clears your name completely there comes a phase that is even deeper than restoration, and that phase is establishment, because restoration gives back what was questioned but establishment secures what can never be questioned again, and this is where your life begins to operate from a place of settled authority rather than defensive survival. Because for too long you were reacting to narratives you did not create. Managing emotions you did not deserve, and carrying stress that did not belong to you. Yet now the atmosphere has shifted and what once felt like constant tension is being replaced by divine steadiness, and this steadiness is not accidental but earned through endurance, because the season of misunderstanding trained you to rely on God in ways comfort never could, and the nights you cried built spiritual muscle. The silence you maintained built discipline, and the restraint you practiced built credibility in the unseen realm long before it appeared in the visible one, and now that the truth has surfaced and your name stands clear, you may notice something surprising. You are no longer desperate for everyone to admit they were wrong, because peace has replaced the need for validation, and that peace is a sign that the work inside you is complete, because vindication was never just about public correction. It was about private transformation, and now you carry a different weight, a weight of maturity, discernment, and quiet confidence that cannot be shaken by opinion. And think about how in the life of Moses in the book of Exodus he was misunderstood, opposed, and questioned repeatedly even after being chosen. Yet over time God established his leadership so firmly that the same people who doubted him depended on him for direction. And establishment took time, but once it occurred it was undeniable, and that same pattern is happening in your story, because once your name is cleared, your role becomes clearer, your influence becomes stronger, and your presence becomes necessary in places that once resisted you. And this is where wisdom must guide you, because success after struggle can tempt you to revisit old wounds, but you are not called to relive what God has already resolved. You are called to move forward with clarity, and clarity means you no longer over-explain yourself. You no longer chase acceptance, and you no longer shrink to make others comfortable. Because the fire you survived refined you rather than reduced you, and now your voice carries depth that cannot be manufactured, and people will sense it when you speak, they will feel it when you lead, and they will recognize that what tried to break you actually built you. And in this established season, opportunities will align with less resistance because credibility accelerates access. And doors that once felt locked will open naturally because your character has been proven under pressure. And you must remember that proven character is more powerful than loud talent, and what truly sets you apart now is not what you say about yourself but what God has revealed about you through the trial. And there may still be a few who refuse to acknowledge the truth, but their refusal will no longer affect you because establishment means your peace is no longer dependent on universal approval. And the beauty of divine justice is that it does not require unanimous agreement, it only requires divine confirmation, and once God confirms you, the rest becomes background noise, and you will begin to see how even the attack served a higher purpose because it filtered your circle, strengthened your intuition, and deepened your resilience. And now as you walk forward you do so with spiritual authority that cannot be stolen because it was forged in adversity. And this authority will allow you to help others navigate similar storms without panic because you know firsthand that delay is not denial. An accusation is not destiny, and your testimony will carry healing power because it is rooted in lived experience. And when people ask how you survived, you will not point to your own strength but to divine faithfulness, and that humility will protect the blessing you now carry. And as the months unfold you will realize that what once felt like the worst chapter became the foundation of your greatest growth. And the respect you now receive will feel different because it is not built on image, but on integrity, and integrity is sustainable, and sustainability is the mark of true establishment. and this is the season where you stop looking over your shoulder and start looking ahead with confidence, because the past has been settled, the truth has been confirmed, and your future is no longer overshadowed by old narratives, and the same God who allowed the test has now trusted you with greater responsibility. And responsibility is proof of restoration, and restoration is proof of favor. And favor is proof that your calling was never cancelled. So as this journey concludes, remember that your name is not just cleared, it is covered, it is protected, and it is positioned for impact, and what began as a season of defense has become a lifetime of influence, and no whisper, no rumor, and no accusation will ever have the power to define you again, because God has established you openly, firmly, and permanently. And from this point forward you walk not as someone who survived a lie, but as someone who stands in undeniable truth, equipped, elevated, and ready for everything that comes next.